Hi guys! This is the first video on my channel. I hope you like it. Enjoy the video. The art of strategic ignorance. Being smart seems like a superpower, right? A golden ticket to success, respect, and maybe even happiness. But here's the brutal truth. Intelligence is often a curse wrapped in a blessing. Think about it. You're the person who sees through people's lies, who understands complex systems, who can solve problems others can't even identify. And what happens? Everyone starts dumping their problems on your lap. Oh, you're smart, you'll figure it out. Suddenly, you're the designated problem solver for everyone else's incompetence. Meanwhile, the person who knows nothing, they're chillin'. Nobody expects anything from them. If something goes wrong, nobody points fingers because, well, they're just simple folk, right? The intelligent person works twice as hard while the ignorant person relaxes. Fair? Not even close. But life isn't fair. Schopenhauer understood this perfectly. He said that all satisfaction is negative. We only feel good when pain stops, not when we actually gain something. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't control. And that realization, it's psychological torture. But here's where it gets interesting. What if I told you that strategic ignorance, the art of appearing less intelligent than you actually are, could be your secret weapon? Let me paint you a picture. You're at work. Your boss presents a problem that you could solve in 5 minutes. But instead of jumping up like an eager puppy, you sit back. You let someone else volunteer. You watch as they struggle, make mistakes, and eventually ask for help. That's when you casually offer a simple solution. Suddenly, you're not the person who gets every difficult task dumped on them. You're the person who occasionally saves the day without carrying the weight of constant expectations. Think about Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. Everyone underestimated him because of his size, but he used that underestimation to his advantage. While others fought for recognition, he played the long game. Or consider Light Yagami from Death Note. His downfall wasn't his intelligence, it was his need to prove how intelligent he was. L caught him precisely because Light couldn't resist showing off. The smartest characters in fiction often succeed not by displaying their intelligence, but by concealing it until the perfect moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." Translation: mind your own business, keep your mouth shut, and watch the world exhaust itself with unnecessary drama. But let's get practical. How do you actually implement strategic ignorance? First rule: stop volunteering information. When someone's complaining about a problem you could easily solve, resist the urge to jump in immediately. Let them struggle a bit, not because you're cruel, but because solving everyone's problems turns you into their unpaid consultant. Second rule: master the art of selective competence. You don't have to be incompetent at everything. Choose your battles. Be brilliant at things that directly benefit you and conveniently clueless about things that would burden you with unwanted responsibilities. Third rule: let others have the spotlight. In meetings, let the ambitious ones fight for attention. While they're busy trying to impress everyone, you're observing. You're learning who's actually competent, who's just noise, and where the real power lies. This isn't about being lazy or dishonest. It's about energy management and strategic positioning. Look at Warren Buffett, one of the richest people alive, yet he presents himself as a simple guy from Omaha who just likes buying good companies at fair prices. He doesn't need to prove his intelligence. His results speak for themselves. Meanwhile, countless finance bros burn themselves out trying to appear smarter than they are, working 100-hour weeks and stressed out of their minds. Who's living better? The ancient Taoists had a concept called wu-wei, action through non-action. It's about achieving your goals with minimum effort, by working with natural forces rather than against them. Strategic ignorance is wu-wei for social situations. Instead of fighting against people's tendency to dump work on the competent person, you simply don't appear competent, at least not until it serves your purposes. But here's the deeper truth that philosophers have known for centuries. The more you understand about reality, the more depressing it becomes. Nietzsche talked about this when he said, "Ignorance is bliss" isn't just a saying, it's a survival mechanism. When you really understand how the world works, how most people are selfish, how institutions are corrupt, how little control you actually have, it can crush your spirit. Sometimes, a little strategic ignorance protects your mental health. Think about it like this. Imagine you're watching a movie. If you analyze every plot hole, every inconsistency, every predictable twist, you ruin the experience. But if you just let yourself be entertained, you might actually enjoy it. Life works the same way. You don't need to understand every injustice, solve every problem, or correct every misconception you encounter. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is pretend you don't see what you see. Let me give you a real-world example. You're at a family gathering. Your uncle starts spouting political opinions that you know are completely wrong. You have all the facts, all the arguments, all the evidence to destroy his position. What do? The intelligent response would be to engage, to educate, to correct his misconceptions. But what actually happens when you do that? You ruin the family dinner, create tension, and your uncle doesn't change his mind anyway. The strategically ignorant response is, you nod politely and change the subject to something harmless, like the weather or sports. You preserve family harmony, avoid unnecessary stress, and save your energy for battles that actually matter. This is what Epictetus meant when he talked about focusing only on what's within your control. You can't control other people's opinions, but you can control your response to them. And sometimes the smartest response is to pretend you don't have one. Here's another angle. Strategic ignorance as a form of power. When people underestimate you, they reveal more than they should. They speak more freely around you, make assumptions about your capabilities, and often exclude you from their schemes. But here's the thing. Being underestimated puts you in an incredibly powerful position. You see everything, but nobody sees you as a threat. You understand the game, but nobody knows you're playing. And when the time comes to make your move, you have all the information and none of the baggage. Consider how this plays out in anime. Think about characters like Senku from Dr. Stone or Shikamaru from Naruto. They're both incredibly intelligent, but they're strategic about when and how they display that intelligence. Shikamaru literally built his entire persona around being lazy and unmotivated, which allowed him to observe situations without the pressure of constant expectations. When he finally did act, his solutions were so elegant and unexpected that they seemed almost effortless. That's the power of strategic ignorance. But let's address the elephant in the room. Isn't this just manipulation? Well, yes and no. You're not lying about your capabilities, you're just not advertising them. You're not deceiving people about your intelligence, you're just not volunteering to solve every problem that crosses your path. Think of it like financial advice. You don't go around telling everyone how much money you have, right? That would just invite problems. Strategic ignorance is the same principle applied to intellectual wealth. The Buddha taught that attachment to being seen as being intelligent is just another form of ego that causes suffering. When you need to be recognized as the smartest person in the room, you're not actually wise. You're just insecure. True intelligence doesn't need recognition. It operates quietly, efficiently, and only when necessary. Here's a practical framework for implementing strategic ignorance. Listen more than you speak. When you do speak, ask questions instead of providing answers. Let others reach conclusions on their own, even if you could have given them the answer in seconds. This serves multiple purposes. People feel smarter when they figure things out themselves. You avoid taking responsibility for their decisions, and you gather more information about how they think. Choose your moments of brilliance carefully. When you do demonstrate your intelligence, make it count. Don't waste your reveals on minor issues. And perhaps most importantly, remember that being right isn't always the goal. Sometimes being peaceful is more valuable than being correct. Lao Tzu wrote that the wise are not learned, the learned are not wise. What he meant is that true wisdom often looks like simplicity. The person who needs to demonstrate their intelligence constantly usually understands less than they think they do. The person who can afford to appear simple, they're operating from a position of genuine confidence. So here's your challenge. For the next week, try strategic ignorance. Don't volunteer solutions to problems that aren't yours. Don't correct people's minor misconceptions. Don't jump into debates just to show how much you know. Instead, observe. Listen. Learn. You might be surprised at how much more peaceful your life becomes when you stop trying to be the smartest person in every room. Because at the end of the day, Schopenhauer was right. Knowledge increases suffering. But strategic ignorance, that's wisdom in disguise. And wisdom, unlike intelligence, actually makes your life better.